Another update on the XY table. We have an XY table. It's working. I'm just about happy with it. The main problem I've got, well, there's two problems really. One is that the stepper motors don't have very much torque at all, so any sort of force on it and it just stalls. Now the other problem I've got is attaching the slider, which is a bit like this, to the lead screw. So at the moment I've got some wire, so you can see in here there's some wire wrapped around the screw, which seems a fairly good way of doing it. Unfortunately you can see the wire flexes quite a lot, so I've actually, on the other side, I've connected the wire right the way round in one full turn, and then attach both ends of the wire. That's much better. It looks untidy, it's not brilliant, but it does mean that you get a bit of, well, backlash, for a better word, lack of a better word. So you can see that the Y didn't move there on the scan. It's doing a scan at the moment, so the Y moves, but only after one or two movements of the X carriage. So this is now doing an XY scan across quite a large range. I think it'll probably work, but I think I'm going to look for a different set of stepper motors and lead screws. I think I'm going to have a look for something that perhaps is on a different lead screw and has some sort of fitting, and I think that means I'm not going to be able to salvage stuff from DVD or CD drives, because they don't have any torque at all really, at least with the voltage I'm running at, which is 5 volts. But I think I can work with this. I can write some software and maybe get some scanning out of it. It's okay. The other problem with it is that the resolution, so the actual horizontal resolution for one rotation of the lead screw, is quite high, so it's not going to be a micro XY table, which I might need for some of the die shots, because the dies are only maximum of 10mm, I'd say, on a side, so that's nothing like the movement we've got here. It's much smaller, so there'll be far less steps. It might still work. I'll give it a go while I'm doing the software, but there've been quite a few iterations that didn't work. Quite a few of them. That one, and that one. They were iterations of printing, so the printer failed there. I had problems. That's another one that failed on the printer. This one was one of my first prototypes, but you can see I've had to melt the plastic here to fit the stepper mounting plate in. It was fouling on the lead screw. This is the other problem. The problem with salvaging from DVD drives is that everything is different. These two, which are pretty similar, are actually different. There's the first one. That was the white one, which had this slider running up and down on it. That worked quite well, so that would be an X table if I ever wanted to put that back together again. The sliders are quite interesting. That was one slider I did, and then I did another one because I had two tables. And here the rail actually runs through a 3mm hole, which I had to file out, and the hole runs all the way along the block. And if you're making one of these yourself, I recommend not doing that. What you want to do is take a lot of the material away and just have the ends of the block sliding on the rail. That cuts down your friction considerably, and that's what's happening here. This is a cross-linked pair of sliders, so this is one 3D print, which is basically just two of these linked together like that, and that's how the tables are joined together. So they're joined on double sliders. I don't think, can we see in there? We can't see too easily, but the slider is only held at either end of, sorry, the rail is only held at either end of the slider. So it sort of works, and there's no force needed at all really. We just need to carry something underneath the microscope objective. I've filed the one rail I file the holes out so that this rail is fairly tight and this one's quite loose, because otherwise it tends to bind up, and that's another problem with this arrangement. The binding of the slider is the bane of your life. So this does mean that there's a bit of slack and the table can move up in this direction because I've rather overdone it. Now I could solve that by printing another linked slider, but the weight of the table should hold that down. And focusing is another problem I'm going to have with die shots. If the die isn't absolutely horizontal, or the plane of this isn't absolutely horizontal, then the focus is going to go way out. And I don't have full control over the GF1, so that's going to be a bit of a problem. That might be a showstopper for fully automatic die shots, unfortunately. I know that someone else has done this, and he sets, I think, 2 or 3 or maybe 4 focus points, and then his software interpolates and refocuses the camera at each point. But I can't do that with this camera, so I might have to buy another camera, or just use, well, I can't use autofocus because the lens isn't actually on the camera when it's on the camera mount on the microscope. So that's another little issue that's going to have to be addressed. So I think this is just another iteration in the XY table saga, but it's an XY table.